The radio we're about to repair is a 1963-64 Arvin model 32R43. And I was looking at the SAMs, and there's something kind of rare in the SAMs, which is the IF can capacitor values. And I still see this myth going around that you can just throw 39s in the FM and 100 in the AM. And I guess you can do that. Your radio is never going to work to full potential. But this is the FM. There's your IF capacitor values, 17 and 17. We go over here to the detector output, and it's a 34. Come down here to the AM, it's 140 picofarads, not 100 picofarads, it's 140. Come over here, that's another 34. So, I guess if you wanted to put 100 picofarads in there, you'd be 40% out. Now this is different on every radio, so don't use this as an example for what you're repairing, because they're all different. It depends on who the manufacturer is they sourced the IF cans from, and these values might not even be what's currently in this radio. If they might have sourced the parts from a different manufacturer, if they changed vendors, or vendors changed coil and capacitor ratios. But I thought I would just open the video with this because I still see this all over YouTube. You could just use 100. No, you can't just use 100. You need to determine the right value and use the right value for optimum performance. So let's open this box. This is a AM/FM radio that's been sent in for repair, sentimental to somebody. Let's see how post office did. Post office is usually pretty good. Well, it's double boxed, and this is really the way you want to do it. No lash in the packing, and you want one box inside the other with the layer around between that absorbs shock. This might be a little bit overkill for a radio, but let's check it out. Alright, this is an Arvin AM/FM. Gotta sniff the cigarette glaze. Kinda bask in that yellowy, glazy tar finish. Now, with this stuff, this right here is this thing is a capacitive antenna coupler for the FM. So this needs to go on to one of those slugs there. God, that's old paper. Now with these things, we know IF silver mica disease and the IF transformers is becoming an issue, and that's very labor intensive to repair. So here we have a 32R43, and should we just plug it in and not even open it? I guess so. Got our watt meter going on, so here we go. That was a firework, not the radio.
We are the good squad and we're
It's wide open. Filter capacitor just failed.
Oh, I am now free to be confident in Jesus Christ. There should be no timid Christian. Why do we walk around timid, afraid to speak, to name the name of Jesus Christ? Why?
Not bad for no antenna.
Yes. See why Yahoo Travel ranked us the #1 casino in.
Factory trade assist cash requires 4 credit financing. Not all buyers will qualify.
The answer is absolutely. And the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be. The fact you're in your 20s is absolutely thrilling to be having a conversation right now.
Me, a very, will, and I guess I'll have to find a lawyer for that.
Fair and Event Center in Mesa. Bring your family and friends. Gates open at 6 p.m. for picnicking. Get your tickets at pacificsymphony.org.
It's 3:14 on Southern California's only 24-hour local news and traffic station, KNX 1070 News Radio. How about Archer? Stories coming up.
Robots move into fast food. That story's coming up in 5 minutes when Bloomberg checks your money.
There were marches across the country and in downtown LA calling for an impeachment of the president. Those stories and more coming up in the next 15 minutes. But first,
maybe we could get robots to call for impeaching the president. We could have a robot. Well, maybe we already do have a robot rally.
More traffic reports more often. KNX 1070 News Radio. All right, we'll start to warm up a little bit on Monday and Tuesday after enjoying temperatures about 4 to 8 degrees below normal on Sunday. Monday morning, a lot of cloud cover, low to mid 60s to start. We'll start off, get highs to about 70 along the coast, 72 on Tuesday. It goes from 70 on Monday to 82 on Tuesday. 83 or so Monday, 87 on Tuesday, and the Inland Empire warms up to the mid 90s on Monday and Tuesday, close to 100 high deserts and about 80 mountains. Thursday, monsoon moisture comes up, and we'll have the chance for a few isolated thunderstorms. With Southern California's accurate and forecast, I'm CBS 2 meteorologist Craig Herrera, KNX 70 News Radio.
right now 73 degrees in Long Beach, 95 in Lancaster, 79 in Pacoima, and
All right.
17. An animated character who started as a villain and then became a good...
We got, I bet we got a solder joint under here that's failed from heat. You can see that this has a lot of hours on it, and there's no doubt when you see burnt like that, that this, and all of these tubes have been changed, that this thing has provided a wealth of entertainment to somebody. So we probably need to reflow some solders on the bottom of this board. Looks like all disc caps except this, and it looks like we might have one electrolytic back, one of those. I'm sure it's dead with the red top. It's probably a cathode bypass. So let me see what I can do. Interesting radio to get apart. Now, just looking at this, it looks like this whole area over here has been reflowed already. And this area, this being the audio output, the rectifier, This does not look like it's been reflowed. So I don't know if this thing was to develop silver mica disease. I don't know if it could handle having all the IF transformers. That'd be like doing open heart bypass on a 105-year-old person. It's so baked it wouldn't handle it. It'd be too much stress for it. But I will reflow this area, and we'll look into changing that filter cap. I'll be back in a minute. This is definitely the offending joint right here. I'm going to move the tube. See that? But the rest of them, even the one next to it's baked. They all have circles around them.
After leading CHP officers on a high-speed chase that included
someone else did this repair.
He's now in custody on a mental health hold. Hidalgo actually called his father during the pursuit. His dad told KCAL9 what the son said.
That he was going through some challenges, he needs some assistance, and then basically the phone went dead.
The father says Hidalgo suffers from PTSD and actually been to the VA hospital in West.
In the house, on some pin it out. Got to win it. Can I?
To ask questions. Here's one more that doesn't.
We got to follow the sign. Dancing on the Valentine. I tell you somebody. We were laughing until we were breathless. Never found anything so reckless. We were all lit up and restless.
Definitely feels like the alignment's off on the FM. I hear some distortion. Doesn't seem to be in the audio stage. It's rock solid now as far as moving the board around. There's nothing, so that's good.
Because there happens to be a little more historical information in the secular writings or the writings of the early church fathers.
The drive on the eastbound 210 is going to slow down, getting away from the brakes in the area. In the Inland Empire, Moreno Valley 215 north at Central, one car crashed, the front end damaged and smoking over to the right shoulder, and the backup to Day Street. Driving into Simi Valley.
A la segunda base, vamos a tener un cambio de lanzador.
The other schools and found out that, they want your firstborn child and so forth. So I thought, well, I'll...
AM sounds good. FM is much quieter.
And I will try.
Gotta be right now.
Which means they play you our favorite songs all weekend long, and you can hear Hudson's favorite songs in about 10 minutes on 98.7.
Just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said shut up.
It's our right and our responsibility to have these conversations that maybe nobody else will have with your students. And by the way, it's never too early to start either. Even if our kids are young, so that when they're older and the issues are bigger, we've already laid that foundation. We're doing that with our kids right now, and they're only just entering middle school. That's great. But here's why I think it's so important. we have to equip them now to know why they believe what they believe. So it's more unshakable. It's inoculating them ahead of time. Here's a statistic that we need to know. Barna said that only 20% of students who are highly churched as teens remain spiritually active into young adult years. Why, we may ask? They say a large reason is because of university faculty. They're far less likely to call themselves Christian than the general public.
The feels off. Okay, here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to let it run. See if silver mica disease pops up. I'll let it run for a couple days, and I guess I could test the tubes. Maybe I'll do that right now. And then I'll let it run for a week or so before I change anything. I'll put it all back together and let it run, and we'll see if silver mica disease pops up, because if the IF transformers need to be recapped, that's a big game changer for this guy. It really is. Cigarette glaze. Okay, this is a 17C9. This is the FM tuner tube. And this thing is checking completely bad. E1 and E7. So 1 and 7 should be the two elements in there. And I got that's grid leakage. That's emissions on 7. And then on 1, I got nothing, and if I crank the filament voltage way up, all I get's a bunch of grid leakage and no emissions. This is grid leakage. This is emissions. So I don't know what's going on with this tube. I can't believe it would be that dead and the FM tuner do anything. But I don't think I have one of those to substitute either. That's a weird number. Alright, this is supposed to be one of the tube testers. This is a Hickok 799. So 17C9. Let me set this up. This is a learning curve. I've completely forgot how to use this. Well, on this one, this is what it tests. So that's one element. That's the other element. Crank it up to 20 volts. Let's see what we get. Not real good. Okay, that tests like garbage on two testers. I'm going to order one of those up. Both of these test okay. They're not hot, they're not dead. 50C5 is questionable, grid leakage. I might order up one of those. 12AV6 okay, and the 12BE6, that one's okay, but that one and the audio output are questionable. That one's, you know, I have a feeling I'll put one in there that tests good, performance won't change. I see that all the time. Okay, what you're looking at is the ST1000A on mono, fed in here. And basically, I believe what we should see when I tune the dial with the AFC off. Okay, you see I'm tuning to one side. See how the noise is on the bottom? Now when I tune to the top, it should do the same, but it just starts clipping and flattens it out really bad. So so instead of doing that, on the top is what it should do. the detector's jacked up. So I set up the ST1000 and I was going to try this dual sweep alignment. And I took the radio out of the cabinet so I could get to the alignment test points. And I hooked it up to my test speaker, and I'm wondering, why does it sound like this? What's wrong? And I realized that this is remarkable stupidity here. I realized that I left the audio output transformer out of the equation. Oops. So a bit better. Need that impedance matching. Alright, this is the dual sweep. And this is adjusting the tuning on the radio. I think these two sides are supposed to be even, but I'm not sure. I'm going to align it the traditional way, and we'll take a look at it and see what the difference is. 10.7, got our voltmeter here. I've marked with yellow the 10.7s, and I got this one here. Ungrounded. Ooh, did I? Oh, that's nothing. Ungrounded tube sock shield over the tube. So you just take an old tube shield, stick it over the top of the tube, make sure it's not touching the shield that's there. Feed your 10.7 RF into that. So we just want to gently check these. Kind of peek all these out. And as you can see, it's way out. Okay, let me try and do this one-handed, two-handed. And this one, of course, is our most critical. This is the discriminator. So if I go one way, I get a negative voltage. If I go the other way, I hit 0, then I get a positive voltage. So this is the one that's the most critical to be zeroed out on 10.7. That's what makes your AFC work, makes it not distorted. So I'm gonna zero this out and then let this run for a minute, and then I'll hook the other thing back up, and we'll see.
Wait no longer.
I've got some imbalance here because I can't get it to go as negative as I can positive, and it should be about equal, which maybe one of the germanium diodes is failing.
Saturday, September 16th, Rose Bowl Stadium with special tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Ticketmaster or charge.
It'll only go negative. It'll only go negative 0.2 volts, but it'll go positive.
For one great price. Splash into the expanded Knott's Soak City waterpark.
Almost 2 volts.
Then hop over to Knott's Berry Farm to experience Ghost Town Alive, where you can take part.
I gotta check the germanium diodes,
Just 4 payments of $31.50 plus applicable
because
taxes and fees.
alignment's not getting it. The balancing capacitor is good too. Well, not today. I'm gonna put this on hold right now. Okay, I got a new 17C9. This is an expensive tube. This is a $22 tube shipped. So this is the old one. And basically this is how it tests. That's element 1 and element 2. Okay. This is the way a new one tests. This still seems a little bit low, but this tester could be calibrated. So both sides are equal and they're almost up in the green. This is also a very unique tube. This is a 10-pin tube, and you can see that in the middle of the socket there's actually a female. I'm in manual focus. There we go. So you can see there's a female there, and there's a pin in the middle of this tube. See that? This is a 10-pin tube. Very interesting. Alright, I got the new tube in it there, and one thing's interesting about this, it sure does seem to glow bright, but it's the right tube. Now I'm back on playing with the discriminator, and I checked all the diodes and resistors, and they all test okay, and this radio has a ton of drift, where it takes about 2 hours to warm up totally and stop drifting, and that's excessive. And I'm noticing with the discriminator here, if I just it's almost like it's got silver mica disease. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave it there, shut it off, let it cool off, signal generator on 10.7. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just feed it the 10.7, see if the IF drifts or if the tuner drifts. Don't know where I left off with this, but basically what I did is I went through and I checked all of the FM discriminator diodes, resistors, all of that. Everything looks good. I was able to align the second IF to get the equal positive negative swing that I was desiring. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little AM alignment on this, and I'm letting it warm up for a while first. Yeah, you let it warm up for 20 minutes. 455, some AM modulation. We're at negative 27. I'm just feeding that into a coil of wire sitting on top of the bar antenna. That one's right on. No adjustment needed. That's a good sign. That indicates that the capacitors in there are in good shape. Try this one. Right on. They're both right on. That's good indication that the silver mica disease is not diseasing. The owner wanted the filter capacitor changed, so I went ahead and did that, even though the one that was in there tested perfect. I mounted the new filters on the bottom because with the proximity to these two power tubes here, the infrared radiant heat is quite a bit on that capacitor. So I decided with these newer ones, even though they're 105, I still went ahead and put them on the bottom. That'll get them away from the majority of the heat. I'm also installing kind of a permanent alignment wire here, since the alignment is taken off of the volume control. So I'm going to just terminate this and leave it, so in the future it will be easier to align. No antenna on it right now. No FM antenna on it. It's just open there. So we're all back together, and I'm going to change the 50C5 tube because it's arced a few times internally, and it's Sounds pretty tired, but you can hear the alignment's good. So there's our alignment test point right there. I'm just going to leave that there. I'll put some heat shrink over it. The capacitors are on the bottom now. That gets them away from the heat. I think that's a good thing. They'll probably never go bad again instead of baking on top. And I got to go through and neaten this up a little bit and let it run for a few days. And I'd like to close the video by putting the ST1000A sweep generator back on it and looking at the dual trace again and comparing it to the beginning.
I remember how we made our way.
This is actually pretty intelligent. They have you pull the AFC out to turn it off. So naturally you would end up pushing it in, which would be AFC on. I like that. That's good design. You have to intentionally decide to turn the AFC off. Here's the replacement 50C5. Here's a 50C5 that's currently in the radio.
On the phone, I'm straight, eating all day, trying to lose weight. That good sex will sweat it out. Hotel bed springs will wear it out. I ain't gotta tell you, cause you know me. You know me.
Actually sounds good now.
As long as I'm in and around, you don't have anything to worry about. Tell two people you don't have anything to worry about. Said in verse 26, the birds of the air, they don't sow or reap. But God...
This programming right here sounds really good with hard clipping, like a cheap transistor unit, but a tube won't hard clip.
Verse 28, the lilies...
Time. And for the party menu. That way you can order wings, pick them.
Okay, now to leave it run for a couple days, a week. Use it every day, 2, 3, 4 days. See if the silver mica kicks in or if we're rock solid. Well, it lasted about 20 minutes. AM, I had it on the oldie station on AM and just died. But
Ok. Hombre en primera, el tiro va.
Intentionally sold out living for him, but I believe in him. That's why we need the quote-unquote.
So I told him, you know, if you apply for spousal benefits, you can get half of his, all right, which would put you at $11.50 or $11.
all right, what is this about? The ones with the yellow dots are the FMIF. The ones without marks are the AMIF. Basically, I believe the AM circuit is... this is the converter tube. IF diode and first amp, and then rectifier. But I don't know if it uses 2 IFs. Let me look at the schematic. And it only uses one of the IF tubes, 6BJ6 first AM and second F and 6BJ6 second FM. So it only uses one of these, and then it drops down to here into, should be the 12AV6. So is it the converter tube or is it one of the IF transformers? With our 140 micropuff, picopuff, capacipuffs. Guess I could try changing the converter, which is a, what is the converter here? And it is just a simple 12BE6. Interesting failure.
LA Oldies. Chaser.
Okay, I changed it 12BE6. I just put a used one in there, and it actually is stronger and sounds better than it has. So obviously this tube is shot. Now here's the thing with this. These tubes are 20 bucks a piece by the time you ship them for brand new old stock. So you're looking at over $100 in tubes just to retube this radio. Just for the tubes. You know, all American 5s are popular, so the people on eBay, the tubes are in higher demand, so people are buying the tubes, so it drives the price up. It's not like some series string black and white set where there's a billion caddies full of, you know, 3 AH whatever, 3 EH 6 tubes or whatever that nobody has any use for. So this can get expensive really fast. I got to talk to the owner about this and see what he wants to do, because it's very possible that the IF tubes and the rectifier could fail next, and you just keep going, or what? And then the IF transformers. So this is Shango 066, and you should be watching this on the YouTube channel, not some clone channel. Let me know if you see it on a channel other than Shango 066. Thank you. Okay, back to this. I forget where I left off, but basically the last thing I discovered, I was letting it run and the FM performance just wasn't what I thought it should be. Pretty much here in the LA basin, you should have really stout reception without an antenna. The signals are so hot here, and even with an antenna it just was subpar. You know, when you walk around the room, the volume on the radio shouldn't go up and down, because the RF should be hot enough to where the AGC compensates for you walking around. So anyway, I ended up putting 2 new IF tubes in it, so this set now has had a complete retube. Every tube's been replaced, and I got great FM performance now. The FM loudness is on par with the AM, which it should be, but now the alignment's way off again. Now let me see if I can demonstrate that. So pulling that out is turning the AFC off. Okay, so that's AFC on, AFC off. So let's turn the AFC off. Okay, we'll center it out. Now that's what it should do, but it wasn't doing that earlier. You turn the AFC on and it would go off the stations.
Because if we don't play elite joints in a row in this mix, y'all can come up with $10,000.
For generations to come. So, first of all, what inspired you to create this film? Well, to be honest, I needed to do a project for my master's thesis, and I love YouTube tutorials. To them like a couple of years ago.
That's what it should do.
I just happened to be like doing.
Wait for my dishes, okay, girl. And if you like fishing, grits and all the pimps, everybody let me hear you say, okay, girl. Well, it's the Empire cricket letter, ain't no one better. And when I'm on the microphone, you best to wear your sweater, cause I'm cooler than the polar bear's toenails. Oh, hell, they.
Okay, I think I got this aligned pretty good. So at 10.8, we're at 1.6 volts positive. At 10.7, we're at about 0 volts. At 10.6, we're at negative 1.6. That seems about right.
I heard you on the wireless back in 52, lying awake on you. If I was young, it didn't stop you coming.
Hi, this is Brian Wilson. Here's my favorite.
They took the credit for your second symphony. And now I understand the problems you can see. Radio, kill the radio star.
So the way you're supposed to tune these radios, you turn the AFC off.
Cut that up into skinny pieces, then she clean up with her face, man, I love my baby. You talking money, need to
Center yourself out on a station. Then I'm going to turn the AFC on here, you'll see. So see, it basically pulls it into about 0.
Their name.
Yeah, we'll play Jackson. Get the realest on the back at it. Cause I'm
Did you have an outline? What was your problem?
in a few minutes. Know where you was with that digital.
Oh yeah, love me some Justin Bieber. Especially when it's running over me with a car.
When nobody else was paying. I gave you the shirt off my back, what you say? Where do we go? Oh, where do we go now?
Oh, no. Se puede hacer así. Okay.
Speed and restrictions apply. Visit.
Or the guy with the guitar singing on a country track. And eye to eye, you were staying out on.
Alright, I'm back on the ST1000A. And just taking a look at this to see how it responded. And I honestly don't. I mean, if that's what I'm looking for, that looks pretty good. So I don't know. I need more practice with this. Anyway, the radio is working pretty good. Next thing is a power cord, then it's time to go home. Yeah, I know this is hard to see, but you can tell I got the alignment working. Everything's working now because that's when I'm in the center right there. You can see there's about equal noise on the top and bottom, and now as I tune off center, you see the noise is on top now. And I'll tune into the middle, then I'll tune off the other way. See the noise is on the bottom now. So she's working good. This is the tuner assembly out of a Pinecrest Street Find. And the alignment is pretty much dead on in this thing. And this is what the dual sweep. It's what the dual sweep looks like on the Pinecrest. The owner requested a new power cord, which turned into a bit of a problem because originally this set, the owner requested a new power cord, which turned into a bit of a headache because originally the set had a interlock type power cord, and you can see here where someone had covered that up. The original interlock actually looks like maybe it arced out and burned pretty good there. And what they did is they stuck the regular power cord with the ends stripped down into the two male tubes and then crimped the male tubes. So this was very difficult to get together, but it's good. And I got the capacitive FM coupler on there. Now, one thing I would like to say about this is never leave something of this age plugged in when you're away. Doesn't matter how recapped or how restored it is. As you've seen in my videos, things carbon track and that. Just don't leave it plugged in. Buy a $5 power strip at Walmart with a switch and put it behind the device. Don't leave this plugged in. I'm telling the owner that. Don't leave this plugged in when you're away. Doesn't matter what it is, it's 50 years old. Don't leave it plugged in when you're not using it. I don't know if I talked about the recap, but he wanted it recapped even though the electrolytic was like the least of this thing's problems. So all of the new electrolytics I put down there to keep them away from the radiant heat from these two power tubes. All the tubes are new, alignment, and cracked solder joint. I think that was pretty much it. Now we'll try running it again for a while and see how it does. Run it with the back on and get some good thermal cycles on this.
Festival Orchestra, Yvonne Fisher directed. And next for you, in the department of just trying to keep you on your toes, there's the English poet born in the 1770s whose name was Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Well, then, 103 years later was born someone who would become known as Samuel Coleridge.
Once again, I got 5 on the 20 sack. It's like as a matter of fact, cause I never hesitate to put a foot on his back. Yeah, so keep out the manuscript. This a must we drop gangster. What's my name?
Girls, you know you better watch out. The girl that's driving me mad is going away.
I don't think it likes this power cord with this coupler. There's too many layers of insulation on this power cord, so I would recommend getting a 300 ohm FM antenna. A little bit of a redo on this power cord. I found another one out of a black plastic crap set that had the strain relief on it, so I notched out, I installed it and then I notched out the cabinet for it to fit, so that's a little bit more professional, I think. Still don't leave it plugged in unattended. I don't care. It's a fire hazard and waiting to happen.
about keeping you safe. That's why we have a team of 5,000 specialists exclusively dedicated to the safety of our pipeline system.
I was one. The car is so sad.
9 to 9.5 KKLA.
Now, I had thought about silver mica disease on this set, and that's a chronic problem with stuff of this era, but it does not appear to show any symptoms of that whatsoever. And I've run the hell out of this thing. It's a lot of hours. I put several hundred hours on it. And yeah, we need to go back and put another 50 hours on it, which I just let it run through the work week, basically. So this was not a cheap repair for the owner of this thing, because these tubes were not tubes that I had. He wanted it done right, and I didn't want to put some pulls that I had in there. But I hope it will be flawless for many years to come. I'm going to let him clean it. I don't want to be responsible for taking some of the silk screened stuff off of here, and I don't even know what to recommend to clean the ashtray out of this thing, because it's yeah, you start cleaning it and all this silk screen numbers just come right off, and I don't want to be responsible for that. Maybe Windex, I don't know. Very quiet. It sounds very good. It's no background noise.
From 3 days and 2 nights. At carsforkids.com.
1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Remember, that's cars with a K.
Ceguera.
He was playing on the next video I ever doctor in my catheter.
Que hacer con él y tiene que.
Estamos en los 25 minutos decade-old program that brings orphan refugee children to.
Once you cross that 10-year horizon,
있죠? 난 몇 장 몇 절에 하나?
cuarta carta.
Mente quieren cambiar.
그 구절을 I'm a little deeper into 네.
Kristen touch.
Looking for my oldies, AM oldies station, no commercials. I think this is it.
Things and to give God praise. And so we want to celebrate those who facilitated our.
Play Regal. When
Something ain't right when we talking. Something ain't.
On the Ring video doorbell app.
Now it's 4 o'clock every day.
Out to your face. La potencia. For behold, this inscrutable enemy, and if you don't.
It's your Lowe's Advantage card. If you don't have one, it demands them.
All right, this has been running pretty much non-stop for a week. And I'm fairly happy with how it turned out. I do suggest a nice dipole FM antenna. You can get them pretty cheap, and you just tack them up on the wall. It's not the original power cord, so I don't think the capacitive coupler is quite as good. So yeah, I think an FM antenna would improve the performance if you were going to use this. Bag of parts here, all the weak tubes, the filter capacitor, all of that stuff. So I think we are ready to go home. Now I've let it run for a week. That's not to say it won't die tomorrow, but it's been rock solid, and you know, running the hell out of it is a good way to test for any things that might fail. So we'll just ship her on home and hope for the best. Arvin AM/FM radio, table radio with airplane noise. Now check this out. Now this was double boxed, and I just went to pack it back up to send it home. And not only did the owner send me the return label UPS, but he also included a roll of shipping tape here. Now that's what I call doing things right. 100%. This is 100%.